My name's Elise, and I'm at Māra Kokotoha, and this is how we do quick plantings in a paddock. There are more things that you can include for like a really good planting, but when you've got a whole bunch of plants that need to go in the ground really quickly, this is a good way to do it with a pretty good success rate. Today I'm going to plant a Konica, which has been grown from local seed right next door. Been in the pot a little too long. Try to get them in the ground a little before that. I use a big square shovel like this. It's really heavy. Not what most people use, but I find it very easy for a really quick, deep hole that you can just pop stuff into. I use a banana knife. I call it a hand scythe because I often scythe my hand with it by mistake. But it's really good for clearing out kikuyu and carrot weed out of your little area really quickly. I also use a hori, which is kind of like a trowel with like a little saw on one side and a knife on the other. It's really good for just making a little hole real quick or knocking soil off of roots. And probably most importantly for a paddock planting is a marking stick. You want to have a highly visible marking stick to pop in with your tree when you're done so you can find it later. Okay, we're going to put our tree right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is find a little spot. Use this to just slice out a good chunk of it. If you don't have one, just rip it out. And I'm pulling out till I can see soil. So I've just made a really small space. I'm not clearing out too much because I'm not putting any protection for the plant. So I'm using a hori or just your spade if you have it. I'm just going to pull out a little section of some sort of big hefty thing with the root. Make sure it's out of the way so it's not competing. Saving the soil. Get that out of the way. And I'm just going to make myself a little hole that's just the size of my pot. And when I empty it, I'm doing it over just to keep any soil. I'm going to make sure that it's deep enough to fully cover the pot where the pot used to be. I'm going to tuck it back in, press it in. We want to heel it in really well because pukeko will pull out anything that is not really in there. Okay, and then quite importantly, we want to make sure there's no bare soil showing. So I'm going to gather kikuyu, carrot weed, whatever I've got, trying not to get the seedy bits. I'm going to stuff them around the base, kind of like mulch. This helps disguise that anything has happened. If any wildlife that comes in here and notices some fresh soil will want to dig in it and undo all your hard work. And finally, I took my marker stick, and I like to always choose the same direction. You can choose what kind of direction you want as long as you're consistent. I tend to say downhill, because then I don't have to look at the sun every time I'm placing it. And then I sort of pile around it a little bit, just to make sure that it's not too noticeable for any passing critters. And then move on to the next one. So this is the follow-up after planting. These are some karamu that were planted last year. And you can see why we need these stakes. These we have recently found and cleared. And over here, you can see there are a bunch of plantings that you can't really see. So for example, we've got a stick. What's in here? If we follow the stick down, we can see that there is a karamu tree in here. To keep it from being fully swallowed up by the kikuyu and carrot weed, we come out whenever we can and we carefully pull the weeds away from the stem. We stomp them down. If anything's growing too close, chop it up. And we give it light, we give it air. And then it can grow up and thrive. Whereas if you don't come and check on them later, if you're just in a big paddock, you might lose them.